How'd you sleep? Slept fine. I hope you did too. Um, I'm feeling like spring's on the way. Yesterday was blue skies, a little bit of warmth. Wasn't wearing a jacket, and that just lifts the spirits. So today's topic, we're supporting the healing as we're finishing out this month, and and this whole idea of honor the fight, support the healing is just to honor the whole landscape of the human, right? Culturally, we're very kind of aware of, full of language about, can interact with, talk with pride about the fight, right? Fight for this, fight for that, fight for our freedoms, fight against COVID, fight against racism, fight against injustice, fight against all kinds of things. We know to fight. What we're less culturally and in many ways individually aware of, to the point of feeling kind of proud of, is how to support the healing. And so in this realm of kind of honor the fight, support the healing, as Armor Down, we just want to make sure that everybody knows that there's both sides, and that those both sides, kind of correlate directly to the internal landscape that you and every other human being has, which is sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. They're two sides of the same coin that is the human experience. They're automatic, right? They happen automatically. However, we can influence the two sides. We can participate with the two sides. The way that works is that we can learn our own internal landscape. And by learning our internal landscape, we can, on demand, honor the fight when it's appropriate, support the healing when it's appropriate. And so that's what our mission is. It's what we're trying to do. And so today, I just want to kind of take that landscape kind of idea and just show you kind of a trajectory of things. Because what we've got right now, and what I keep finding on social media, I'm just like, whoa, this is so cool, is the new Mars rover. Is it Perseverance or Curiosity? I feel like it's Curiosity, but it could be Perseverance. I should know this. But anyway, I've been looking at the images and the video, and last night I showed the girls the image of the little rover up there, looking at the sky, and looking around, and the dirt, and the horizon, and the hills, and the texture of the ground, and there was some sound that came from the new rover, and it's just kind of like, whoa, this is amazing. So think about where our study of Mars originated. Okay, our study of Mars started with, look, it's a red dot in the sky that's different in color. Okay, look, it shows up at different times. And then we developed a story about it. Okay, so we kind of observed, story. We created myths about it. Mars became the god of war. Aries, different cultures create stories around it when Mars shows up. There's the story of, astrology. There's all this story about Mars. Then, as we became more advanced, started to understand things a little bit better. Mars was this far away from the planet Earth. Then we got a little bit more understanding. Well, Mars is this big, or Mars does this, or Mars does that. Well, now we've got our second rover on Mars, and so now there's all this new stuff to be aware of. Same planet, right? Same planet, but now all these different layers of awareness have shown up. And because of all these new layers, we're now understanding things about other planets that we didn't know. And we're starting to learn more about our capabilities. And we're starting to kind of understand these new ways that we can be with these phenomena that are there. So if you tie that analogy to the internal environment of the human, it pretty much tracks the same. our internal worlds have often been seen as places that we just kind of ignore, or places that we kind of can trigger into one way or another. The ignorance of the internal environment is partially due to the fact that we're really integrated into our bodies. Our bodies are amazing. And most of the time, you're not feeling your body. When you eat, you barely feel anything past the swallow. When you're breathing, you don't feel that much. When you're drinking water, it goes down and gets processed. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to take care of it. It happens automatically. So all these processes that, are done by the body for us have for a long time rendered the body a place of kind of mystery. We just don't mess with it. Leave it alone. And then, of course, you tie on the stories about the body, original sin, and there you go for, 2,000 years of the body being the weakest part of us. It's something to be denied, shunned, shamed. So we've got all this story about the body. And then we get into kind of America's coming out experience, which was partially World War I, but really it was World War II. And in World War II, we showed that if we put our hearts into it and put our minds into it, we can do unbelievable things. And part of the training for all that, at least this is my argument, part of the training for all that was kind of the no pain, no gain mentality, which was your body is so much stronger than you realize. All you've got to do is learn how to push it the right way. So then we pushed it the right way. We pushed it to unbelievable degrees. And so that piece, that whole body piece, that really drove American culture. As we continued on, we got into marketing and all this other kind of stuff. So now the body becomes a landscape for presentation, a landscape for who we are. The body becomes political. The body becomes idealized. The body becomes should look this way, shouldn't look this way. So then the body takes on this real kind of presentation-based element, what the body looks like, what it should look like. What are best bodies? What are the worst bodies? What are the bodies that get kind of the privilege? What are the bodies that don't? So got that going on. That lasts for a while. So now we're in a place where the body has kind of taken on this new kind of landscape on the outside. But because, and this is, I will argue, this is because what has happened in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the internal elements of the body, say the mind, the internal elements of the body have become a place of heightened awareness and concern, largely because the ways that we have been working with our internal environment have not been enough, have been unsatisfactory. And so we've figured out new ways of managing the internal environment. And for a while, it was kind of highly focused on pharmaceuticals, which I think is great. I mean, if you've ever been in a really dark place and taken some of these medicines that make a huge difference, I mean, they can be life-saving. So they're awesome. But we found the limits of that. So we kind of moved into other places. And what we've come to is where other cultures have been, but what we're in the West starting to get more aware of, which is that our own awareness of our internal environment can have huge impacts on our well-being and our health. And the way we've started to embrace this as a culture is through the practice of mindfulness. This notion of mindfulness has been around for a long time, but it did not have the credibility of Western science. And until it did, the West was never going to embrace it. Now it does. So now we are embracing mindfulness. And so now we're in the act of actually doing it. So we're in the act of having to practice it. Science can say all at once about what mindfulness is good for. But until you start to get down into the moment and practice what it is to be aware of that internal landscape, it doesn't mean shit for you. So I invite you to always, come and join me every morning so that you can become aware of your internal landscape, because ultimately it will be your awareness that drives your exploration of your internal landscape. It's it's a similar path of discovery that Mars out there was, but it's something that only you can do. Only you can be aware of your internal environment. Only you can learn to navigate what was once a very powerful story, because that's the way we've always dealt with our internal world, is we created a story around it. Only you can figure out how that story really lays down on an actual landscape of kind of internal world that is uniquely yours, that's uniquely grooved through your own life experience. It has its own unique qualities and flavors, and there's infinite layers to your internal landscape. Infinite. And so what happens is that we slowly start to get better at perceiving those layers. Like before, like with Mars, we were just able to see a red dot. Then we created a story. Then the story became super detailed, like super detailed. Then it became tied to other things. So it became not just a story, it became an entire narrative around the whys and the hows of the universe. That's what happens to us too, right? Why you're angry. You feel anger. Oh, here's why, and here's what it means. And it's this big story. And then if you practice, then it's like, there's anger. Yeah, okay, that I'll give it that label for sure. But it's showing up here. It also showed up around this thing I ate. It showed up when I was tired. It's moving. I noticed it. I noticed the flash of anger moving up my throat. Do I want to say that? Gosh, what a thought. Do I actually want to say that thought, or do I want to do something different with it? Gosh, I've been angry for 3 days. What are some of the tools that I have, that I know of, that I can help mitigate this feeling in the internal space? I can do this. I tried that last time. That didn't work. I'll try it this time. That did work. Interesting. Okay, well, if that works there, I wonder if it could work here. Okay, I'm going to take a break from all this. I'm going to come back and set this down and just do something else. These are the things that only you can figure out. Now, my job is to give the landscape an actual frame of reference. And so the first frame of reference is the present moment. That's Bell 1. Second frame of reference is the body itself. Like, you've literally got to get better at paying attention to what the body's presenting as sensation. You have no idea until you actually start to study just how much you suppress automatically. You don't even know it because you don't know what you don't know. But most of your body's presentation to you is kind of overlooked. And so part of Bell 2 is just becoming familiarized with the landscape of bodily sensation and your ability to interact with it. Now, Bell 3, and this is the bell that I think is really what kind of makes Armored Down unique as a mindfulness practice. And that's, we use the breath as a point of exploration, not as just a point of practice. So your breathing is always changing. Like, my breath, just by talking to you, is doing some amazing automatic stuff. Like, it's compressing, it's expanding, it's doing all these things to enable me to talk to you. And I don't even have to think about it. It just happens automatically. Well, because that's the case, your breath represents a perfect study of your internal environment. It changes, it fluctuates, it expands, it contracts, it pulls other things in, it lets other things go. So you can really study your internal landscape and how much kind of variation is capable on your insides by studying the breath. So that's Bell 3. And then Bell 4 is this studying and the practice of opening the heart. Because ultimately, and this kind of tracks back to Mars, we're not alone, right? We are in relation to the whole. However you want to describe the whole is not my place. But I will tell you that we are in relation to this bigger thing that we call life. And a big chunk of this thing we call life is the unknown. And one way to navigate and mitigate the consequences of living in a world that includes unknown is to drill down and get real connected to the things that since the dawn of time have been meaningful and supportive to life, which is gratitude, or connecting to others with the heart, and compassion. So your heart, you add heart to any aspect of the human experience, and that aspect becomes more powerful. So by studying your heart through gratitude and compassion, you're studying the basic thing that all cultures have studied in one way or another, that fortifies our relationship and our resiliency and our awe and wonder of the world. And that's the piece that kind of gives us a kind of a grounds to always turn to when things get rough. Because ultimately, your external world will become smaller and smaller and smaller. Your physical world become more and more deteriorated as you get older. And your breath space will ultimately turn off. And when that happens, whatever you are connected to that larger whole will either stop or it'll move on. My tradition says we move on. And there's something about us that's bigger than our internal landscape, that it connects to a larger landscape. So that, for me, is how I understand what happens after. So the point is, you got to account for that. And the intellectual account for it, that there's just nothingness out there, seems wanting to me. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the practice. Got myself onto a tangent, which I'm often want to do. So, what are you going to do? All right. Start to slow down. Start to get settled. Decide what you're going to do with your eyes. I'm going to close mine. Here we go out. Get settled, get slow. The present moment, this moment right now, notice it with your sense of sound. Notice the landscape around you through sound. Where are the sounds? See if you can perceive distance between you and the sounds. Qualify the sounds as human sounds, machine sounds, or nature sounds. Then try to hold that framework in your awareness and see it all at once. Creating a framework of the present moment through sound. Now let's move through the framework of the body, first starting with your ground, what's beneath you. Moving up to the pelvis, give a little wobble. Just feel the pelvis, the base of the spine. Kind of send a little signal that you're ready to listen and for it to talk back. Come up to the core space. See if you are clenching anywhere. See if you can feel the fabric of your clothing or your belt or your pants or your undergarments at the core region, around the belly button or on the sides or the lower back. Moving up to the heart space. Those shoulder blades. Think of arms traveling down, connected to hands. This region of the heart space. Come to the throat. Give a swallow. Notice sensation in throat. Soften jaw. Get to the top of the head. Imagine the top of your head getting taller by 1 millimeter. And let's work on the face. Soften the forehead. Soften eyebrows. Soften muscles behind the eyes. Soften cheeks, top lip, bottom lip, chin. Now see if you can lift by 1 millimeter your left eyebrow, just your left eyebrow by 1 millimeter. See if you can feel that little bit of effort there. Drop that. Try the right eyebrow, just 1 millimeter. Both eyebrows, just 1 millimeter. You feel the tiniest little bit of effort, that little tiny bit of effort. Okay, let's move down. Smile 1 millimeter on either side, the tiniest smile. And try turning that on and off 3 times in a row. So it's 1 millimeter smile, 3 times on and then off. So it's just repetition. And just notice the tiniest bit of movement there. Now turn on a smile, a small smile, but turn on a smile and feel it. See if you can add your eyes and your cheeks so you can feel the smile on your face. Hold that or drop it as we move on to third bell. Let's take charge of the breath right away. Breathe in real big. A little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more. A little bit more. Hold it. Exhale super slow. Breathe in really big. Breathe in more. More. Hold. Soften any muscles that are getting tense. Exhale super slow through the nose. Really slow through the nose. Slow it down. How long can you go to get to the bottom? Now pause at the bottom until you feel panicky. Breathe in, slowly come back to normal. Let your breathing settle on its own to normal in and out. Notice the location of the breath now. How intense are you breathing? What direction do you feel your breath moving in? How deep in your body do you feel your breath? How big is your breath right now? Join me in gratitude for the human spirit of exploration. You know, if there was ever a time you really explored an area, when was the last time you went exploring? And just that sense of like, ooh, what's coming? Or, oh, that's neat. Or, oh, wow. Or, whoa, I didn't imagine seeing that. Just that sense of willingness to explore. And in your own mind, just articulate appreciation for that. Say something like, I'm thank you for my willingness to be adventurous, or I'm thank you for a human being's willingness to be adventurous, or I'm thank you for the adventure. That's a good one. Why don't you repeat in your own mind, thank you for the adventure, just over and over and over again. Let's finish up by taking 2 breaths. Second exhale, you're done. All right. Good job. Good job. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Stay mindful. We'll see you tomorrow.